I really wanted to finish your project, but I just didn't have enough time. If only there were more hours in the day. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we create robots, alien zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. At least we try to create those things, assuming there's enough time. But sometimes it just seems like there's never enough time. And this is an excuse I hear all the time. It's an excuse that I've made before too. But then I started to think, when you really think about it, do we really, I mean, we could all use more hours in the day. Let's be honest with that. But we know that that's not a thing. You can't make more hours in a day than there actually are. So assuming that that's our reality, so what do we do? Well, we look for time in other places. And a lot of times we make excuses saying we don't have time to do this, but when you really think about it, if you were to hold up your time, if you were to have to kind of audit that time, or if somebody was to really come down on you hard and really want to know where your time went, would your excuses be able to hold up to the toughest scrutiny? Like, for instance, in a court of law? We're gonna do a blueprint sketch and we're gonna talk about just that.
I don't have the time. That's probably the biggest excuse I hear for people who are not creating the artwork that they want to create. Now, I know we're all busy people. We're always juggling tons of different things in our daily lives and everything, kind of like this robot drawing I'm doing, this robot clown. He's juggling away, trying to, you know, keep all these balls going at the same time and everything. And life feels like that. We all feel like we've got so much stuff going on, and you know, I mean, we do. But you know, when you say you don't have time, I have to ask, really, honestly, prove it. And no one's really ever asked to prove that they don't have time. People just take it for granted, like somebody says, oh, I didn't have the time, and then everyone else is like, okay, yeah. But if you were asked to actually prove it, that's a different story. So I was watching a video by Dan Ekus, and I will try to remember to put a link to this video. It's a great video. It's on how to stay motivated, and he's got tons of great advice in here, but there was a little tidbit he put in there that I wanted to expand a little more on. But he was saying how when people say they didn't have the time, he said, pretend you're a lawyer and you had to disprove that statement. And that kind of got the wheels in my head turning, because obviously I'm an artist, so I'm a very visual person. So I started imagining all these, you know, these courtroom dramas that you see on TV or in the movies and things like that. And I you know, if I was on the stand and I had to say, you know, I didn't have time, and there was a lawyer trying to disprove the statement that I don't have enough time, could I do it? Do I have a rock solid alibi? If I was sitting up there on the witness stand and there's a lawyer there grilling me, he's like, you know, where were you on the night of September 1st? Do you remember where you were on the 21st night of September? And if you get that reference, then you're probably an Earth, Wind, and Fire fan. But you know, if you're on the witness stand, can you honestly recount your day and prove where you were and what you were doing, and also prove that what you were doing was so important that you couldn't get your artwork done? I think if we were being honest with ourselves, we would be hard pressed to prove that. And a good lawyer can poke holes in a story like that. And you've seen, like I said, you've seen that on TV or movies and everything like that. And just imagine the stakes were higher. We kid ourselves all the time with the narrative that we don't have enough time. But if we were in court, are we willing to perjure ourselves or face jail time? So if you can kind of imagine the stakes being higher like that, I think you might reevaluate when you say things like, oh, I didn't have enough time. So really start to think about that the same way that a lawyer would in cross-examination. And you can do this to yourself. You can look back over the last day or the last week and everything and see where your time went. Or as you're doing it, just keep a log and find out what you're doing. I think if you're actually keeping that log, the minute you start doing something that's maybe not so productive, you might not want to do that thing because you realize, oh, I got to put this down and I got to be accountable for that thing that I did that, you know, is taking me away from my artwork and really isn't all that important. Now, we all have important things we have to do. We all have family, we all have work, we all have all these other things, but there's so much time that we're not even really thinking about. Little bits and pieces of time here, you know, at least, I mean, I really, you know, I'm sure there are people out there that just every minute they've just got something going on. But even with those people, I think they could find time. And I would challenge anyone who feels that they're in that position to actually do this, to go and evaluate your days and figure out where your time is going. So I belong to this mastermind group, and basically what a mastermind group is, I've kind of explained this before, but if you're not familiar, it's just a group of people that are more or less kind of on your same, I guess, sort of your same level. Mine's sort of creative entrepreneurs and things like that. And, you know, some of it is to kind of hold yourself accountable. I also have the art check and everything that I do that with Josh and Corey. So beyond that, you know, I had the mastermind group, and the idea for that was not so much to hold me accountable, but just, you know, to meet my goals. Well, I guess that's, in some ways, that's sort of the same thing, but also run ideas by people and get creative, you know, feedback and critiques and things like that, advice, all that kind of thing. So that's something, and this is something you guys can do yourself. You can get together with some people and you meet and you know, and basically workshop this stuff out. But one of the things that kept coming up, and you know, the people in my mastermind group, some of them were finding trouble meeting their goals. Most of my goals I hit. I set some pretty ambitious goals, so I didn't hit all of them. We kind of ran through the first I don't know, iteration of this course, and then I'm sure it will pick back up. But right now we're sort of on hiatus. Not course, but this mastermind group. But in this time, I met most of my goals. They were pretty ambitious. There were some that I still haven't met, but I'm close, or I kind of had to swerve and do other things. And again, that's sort of what we're talking about here. Things will fall in your lap, and that will take you away from other things, and that's something you have to watch for. But all this is to say that the people in my group were really curious how I was able to be so productive. And for me, it's just kind of, that's just the way I am. And they were saying, well, you should really do like a course, or you should teach people how to, what, you know, kind of what you go through. And I said I could do that, and I'll try to do something like that. And this video that I'm doing is part of that. But you know, part of it is just the way I'm wired, and different people are wired different ways. So what works for me may not work for everyone else. For instance, and then the other thing I said is, in order to do what I do, a lot of people aren't going to want to do it, and it's not for everyone. So basically, you know, I cut out a lot of things that a lot of people really love. I don't really watch much TV at all. Maybe at the most, maybe, I don't know. I was going to say maybe a half hour a night before I go to bed, but even then, I don't usually do that. Every once in a while, I'll go see a movie or whatever. So I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't play any video games. I'm not like endlessly scrolling through Facebook. I mean, if you go to my Facebook page or my fan page, basically, I mean, I do post, like on my fan page, I will post things that I'm doing every now and then. I usually use it for business, but if you go to like my personal Facebook page, you're not going to see a lot of posts for me. Most of it is people tagging me in things because, you know, I will go through and I'll scroll that, but it's at specific times, and I've talked about this before, like if I'm in line at a grocery store, that's when I do that kind of stuff. But I don't just pull out my phone just like and start scrolling and doing all that stuff. So there's a lot of these things that I have just eliminated, and that gives me extra time to be a little more productive, because that's what's important to me. I'm not a sports fan. I have a friend that's a super big sports fan, and he works, you know, he goes to a job that he hates, and he comes home, and that's kind of his release. He likes to watch sports, but you know, when there's like a football season going on, I barely hear from him because he's knee deep in that. to me, that's just a time suck. And same with video games. But again, a lot of people love video games, and I understand that. So I mean, either these are things you absolutely love. I'm not going to tell you just don't do that, but you have to say, what do I enjoy doing more? Do I enjoy creating and doing my art more than video games, or do I enjoy the video games more? And that's kind of your decision. For me, I like creating things. Now, it doesn't have to be black and white like that. If you can set, hey, this amount of time is when I'm going to play my video games. This amount of time is when I'm going to do artwork. So you don't have to be as hard-nosed as me, but you've got to find that balance if these are some other things you enjoy. And probably I don't know if I would recommend everyone be like me, because I don't have a lot of other interest other than creating art and everything like that. So that's, like I said, that's just not for everyone. But I can go back, and that's one of the reasons why I can kind of go back and I can look at my day and say, if I was in court and there was that lawyer, just grilling me and asking me all these questions, so what were you doing between this time and this time? I could probably tell you, and most likely it's going to be creating something, or of course I have other things that I do and everything, but there's a good chunk of time where I'm actually being productive and everything like that. And if that's not the case from you or for you, then maybe you need to reevaluate everything and kind of put all that in perspective, especially if you're a person that's constantly using that excuse that I just didn't have enough time. You need to be honest with yourself. When you find yourself saying that, again, imagine yourself in a court, lawyers on the other side asking you all these questions. Are you going to end up going to jail because you're lying, because you really do have time? There was time enough for you. If this was, if this wasn't, oh, I didn't work on art, but it was actually like you could have committed a murder in this time and you can't prove where you were, then you're going to jail. Now, it's not that extreme, but if you can't have that rock solid alibi, then you probably, really need to rethink the whole idea of the phrase of I didn't have enough time. So, just be honest with yourself when making that statement. We all have made it, and I've made it, and I could look back and say, yeah, I could have done it then, but it wasn't important to me. I'd rather do this or whatever. And that's fine. Just be honest with yourself. If you'd rather do something else, rather than art, that's fine. Or if it's something that you don't want to do, but it's just like, oh, I got this day job and I had to work all these hours or whatever, fine. But you gotta really look at throughout your day, even if it's 20 minutes here or whatever. That's the whole 100 Days of Making Comics. That's all about. That's the whole reason for that. So there are little blocks of time that you can carve out, and the next time you find yourself on the witness stand, you can prove I didn't have time, if it's true.
All right, so there you have it. And I really like this idea of thinking about time from this perspective, because it really lets us visualize things a little bit more and maybe help us kind of put aside some of those excuses. And it's something that I'm going to be using in the future too, because we all could use more time, but we could also use the time we have more wisely. Is this a technique or a method that you can use to look over your time and say to yourself, yeah, I probably could have used my time a little bit better in this situation? Let me know in the comment sections, and I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. If you like making comics, then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.